Hi everyone, welcome to another Monday Musing. Back in December, in a Thoughtful Thursday email, I used a quote from William Shakespeare that I wanted to revisit today. In fact, the quote seems so much more relevant now than it ever could have back then. Expectation is the root of all heartache. Who knew back in December how few of our expectations for the near future would actually pan out? And I'm guessing this to be a relatively universal experience. There's probably been a lot of heartache in the past few months as our best laid plans got turned upside down one after the other. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was going to be a few weeks, then a few more. Then we realized that this might take a little longer, probably a couple of months. Graduations were canceled, vacations canceled, birthdays celebrated over Zoom, and a few weeks that turned into a couple of months have now turned into over 4 months with a very ambiguous future. So many expectations unmet. So much heartache. Last week I revisited a book that I've started and stopped a number of times. It's called High Tide in Tucson by one of my favorite authors, Barbara Kingsolver. While I typically stick to her works of fiction, I felt compelled to go back to this collection of essays that was originally published in the early to mid-90s. I highly recommend this book to anyone. It's really amazing how relevant these essays still are 25 years on. I don't know why I was moved to go back to this book. I haven't touched it in years, maybe more than 10 even. Maybe it was happenstance. Maybe it was something subconscious that moved me to do it. Sometimes I think we know deep down exactly what we need, but we have no way to actually express or articulate what that need is. I will say, though, that this book was exactly what I needed. I needed it for a number of reasons, but in particular because it helped me articulate an important distinction between expectation and something that feels very similar but is, in my mind, very different. Hope. In the last essay of the book, Kingsolver writes about having met the person who would become her second husband, and the courage that it took to hope for a second chance at that particular kind of relationship. And she writes, "Hope is an unbearably precious thing, worth its weight in feathers. If that's too much to think about, best to tuck it in a pocket anyway and make it a habit." Lately, I've been telling people that my new strategy is to have hope for the future, but not necessarily a particular future. What Kingsolver's words help me tease out is that what I've opted to do in order to reduce the amount of heartache is to have hope, but not expectation. I have hope that at some point there will be a vaccine. I have hope that we will be able to safely resume more in-person work. I have hope that Donna and I will be able to comfortably go to a restaurant again, because I have to tell you, I'm really tired of cooking. I have hope for vacations that we might take, races I might run, dinner parties we might have. But I've stopped having expectation that any of those things will happen on any particular timeline. And for me, it's made all the difference in the world. It doesn't mean that I've stopped thinking about plans altogether, but reminding myself to hope rather than expect has allowed me to think about those plans while safeguarding my heart. To understand that the thing that I hope for is just one of many possibilities for how things may unfold. In some ways, it's actually been energizing, because now I can spend time imagining many futures instead of just one. Donna and I have a vacation planned for November, which seems both impossibly far away and right around the corner. And we're planning on going to the B&B in New Mexico that has been our refuge for over a decade now. I hope we get to go, but I can't expect it. So now, sometimes, instead of thinking of how I want to spend the week at the casita, I spend some time thinking about what would happen if we can't go, and all of the ways we can spend that time off, other than being disappointed. So while expectation may be the root of all heartache, I'm going to take King Solver's advice and keep a feather of hope in my pocket. I hope you do the same. Have a great week, everybody.